Thanks for coming, everybody, and welcome to, I think this is the 9th session of Fixfest UK 2020. We've had a very diverse program so far, covering many aspects of community repair in the UK. And while we've already heard from a wide range of organisers, repairers and activists, we've only really scratched the surface of the incredible repair efforts happening across the country at the moment. So this evening, we're excited to hear lots more stories and are grateful to be joined by Dave Green, who will expertly be steering us through this storytelling session this evening. We're thankful to Nesta and DCMS, who funded both editions of Fixfest in 2020 and back in 2018. And finally, and this is really exciting, the UK Parliament's Environmental Audit Committee, who we gave evidence to just last week, is currently doing an inquiry into electronic waste. As part of that inquiry, the committee's just launched a survey directed specifically at people who volunteer at community repair events in the UK. So this is a really perfect opportunity for repair volunteers to voice the need for better repair legislation and removing the barriers to repair. It's only 4 questions long and should take just a minute or two. I'll post a link in the chat. There we go. The deadline is the 9th of July. So please fill in the survey before the 9th of July and please share it with anyone else in your repair group or anyone else you think is interested. And with that out of the way, I will hand over to Dave Green. Dave, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, James. Thank you, everybody, for coming along. I'm going to keep this very brief so we fit in the maximum number of speakers. From what you can probably see on your screens is we've got a bit of a preview of everyone who will be contributing a 5-minute lightning talk and/or demo during the course of the evening. You don't really need any fascinating facts about me. People will sometimes know me from Need to Know, the website, the Open Tech conference, or Amiga Power magazine in the mid-1990s. And my current interests are DVD swaps, give and take events, jumble trails, Spermal, local recycling, and Deptford junk market. I don't know if anyone has a good enough German accent for the Spermal thing. Apparently, it's a German. It's basically a German word for fly tipping. Anyway, so if we have technical difficulties, I can explain any more of these in greater detail. But first, without any further ado, he's come dressed as a test card. Please welcome our first speaker tonight, Dave Lukes.
Hi, everybody. Hope you can hear me. I'm going to talk for 5 minutes about maintenance. Now, I've been thinking about maintenance for a long while. And if you think about it, what is maintenance? Well, it's the kind of like, it's predictive repair. Maintenance is fixing things before they're broken, which we'd all like to do, right? But at the moment, what's really happening is we're repairing things, but actually what we're doing is mostly what should have been maintenance. You know, when somebody brings their laptop in and it's full of dust, the real problem is they didn't clean it out themselves because they didn't know to do that, right? Similarly, dried up printheads, worn out drive belts on tape decks, all those kind of things. They're actually predictable pretty much. It's just that nobody tells people to look out for them. And it's great repairing things, but wouldn't it be nice if we could fix things, you know, before they happened? You know, if we could maintain things in such a way we didn't need to repair them. Yeah. And the funny thing is, maintenance is all around us, you know. You look at your car, it's got a maintenance schedule, you know. Every 2,000 miles do this, every 10,000 miles change the oil, and so on. Medical devices have legally mandated maintenance schedules, you know. Buildings typically is, well, unfortunately not our homes, but large buildings typically have a maintenance schedule, you know. They have a schedule which says, you know, check all the windows for leaks every year or whatever, and so on. And we ignore those things, but why doesn't your laptop have a maintenance schedule? Why doesn't your phone or hairdryer have, you know, a list of tasks to be done on a regular basis to keep it going? The sad truth is maintenance is not sexy, it's not glamorous. Repair is rescue, and it's always nice to rescue something, isn't it? But somehow it doesn't seem as nice. Where's the fun in not fixing something? Where's the fun in making sure it doesn't break? I mean, a good analogy is heart surgery. Everybody thinks heart surgery is very dramatic, but if you talk to people about why they're getting heart disease, it's bad nutrition, lack of exercise. But nutritionalists, and trainers don't get the same kind of glamorous image the heart surgeons do, which is really sad. And if you compare repair and maintenance, they're very, very much, two sides of the same, sheet or whatever you want to call it. And look at my little Venn diagram there. Sorry, it's a bit poor, but you get the idea. We've got most of the tools to do maintenance from repair. The only difference between repair and maintenance needs are maintenance, you need schedules and you need to know how things are going to fail. Repair, you're trying to find things that have already failed. And in that sense, maintenance is actually harder than repair, oddly enough, because you need to know what you're going to repair before it's failed. And one thing that we don't know much about, which I'll come to in a moment, is mean time between failures on components. And I'm hoping to encourage people to think about that in my little call to action at the end. And if you think about it, right to maintain is just as important as right to repair. Although, if we've got the right to maintain, if we have the ability to maintain, if we understand when things will fail, how they'll fail, we can actually avoid all the problems that cause bigger repair headaches further down the line. And as a result, I would say maintenance is more important in some ways, because you can actually increase product lifetime by making sure that certain catastrophic failures don't happen. And of course, if you look at what maintenance is actually doing, once you have a maintenance schedule, you start to understand how quickly a product fails. The obvious example we've seen is electrolytic capacitors. There are plenty of other examples to follow. And if we all knew how limited the lifetimes of all these things were.
Good. Sorry, I should have given you a bit more of a warning of the 5 minutes coming up. But it looks like you're going to wrap up, Dave.
I am indeed. Yeah.
Fantastic. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. So once you have a maintenance schedule that tells the truth, you'll actually know how limited the lifetime of your product and all its components are. So what I'd like to suggest is this. We have a lot of repair data already. What I'd like to suggest is maybe in the future, we can start drawing that together and working out what kind of component failures happen and when they happen. Because we already record what's happened and we record the age of the device. That gives you effectively a mean time between failure for the component. But my suggestion would be, in order to make that worthwhile, we need more accurate component failed component data. So we need taxonomies, we need nomenclature. We need to be able to say what kind of components failed in a structured way. So let's start talking about maintenance.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Dave. I don't think we're going to be doing individual questions. Maybe like those could be added to the shared documents. Maintenance. If you ever read those like reports on air crashes or space shuttle disasters, maintenance seem to be a big factor in those. So thank you for highlighting it. Do we have? I think the next speaker, Jon Dawes. He's just disappeared from my screen. Here he is. Jon, are you ready to go? Fantastic. And I think you're talking about Pram repair in Glasgow. I'm sorry, that's from memory as I can't read my own screen. There we go.
That's okay. Can you hear me? Hello, is this thing turned on?
I can hear you. I can hear you well. Do you have slides?
Okay. Well, no, I don't, Dave. This might be a chat between you and I, because I think I can see other people, but I can't see the chat. So if anybody has a question, you might have to tell me what it is.
I'll see what I can do.
Thanks. Well, hello, everyone, whoever's there. It looks like 39 people. This isn't necessarily small or beautiful or provocative or a demo or a skill or a show and tell or a favorite tool. However, I will endeavor to tell you a wee story from Repair Cafe Glasgow. So we began, I'm also going to set my timer, Dave and Dave. We started off with some money from the Scottish government in 2018. We've got a couple years of funding. So we started a repair cafe, having monthly events, not like most other restart parties or repair cafes in Glasgow. And just about a year into it, we got an email that said, hey, are you interested in becoming a Pram doctor? So there's a local shopping mall that used to have a mother care that went out of business, but folks would take their old busted up Pram, go into the shopping mall and dump it and buy a new one. So we ended up saying, yes, we'll take that because part of our project, part of the outcomes was based on weight, and prams are heavy. So we thought, oh, heavy prams, great. So we said, yes, we'll take those. We started doing that. The floodgates kind of opened then, and we have been working with another charity called Refuigi, and we clean and repair the prams and give them, and they distribute them as necessary. We've done about 50 or 60 of those. A couple months after we got the initial email, we decided that we'd post on our social media, posted on Facebook, and then what happened is what we call Pramageddon. Since then, it's been nonstop. We have 200 or 250 or so in stock that folks have just donated. Most folks really just, they say, I just can't bear to see this go to landfill. It's got a broken this or a broken that, a brake, a tire, some textile bits wrong with it. But for the most part, the problem is that just like everything else, you spend hundreds and hundreds of pounds on a pram, one little thing goes wrong and you just chuck it out. And there's no recycling because it's mixed textiles and plastic and metal. So we thought, okay, well, what can we do with this? So this is just another example. It could be anything. It could be, any number of different things. Ours just happens to be prams, and we think that we're going to be successful with this. So we've actually spun it off from Repair Cafe Glasgow, turned it into we've applied for charitable status. So Repair Cafe Glasgow is going to be its own charity, the Pram Project its own charity. If you want to get in touch with us and hear any more of it, hello@thepramproject.co.uk. I've put that over there, wherever it is, in the Etherpad chat as well. Happy to chat more about it. But what we're looking at here, I think I'm coming up on my time, but what we're looking at is being a social enterprise, which just means that we do get some grant funding, but we trade. We have a membership where a family can pay a fee, a monthly fee, and have a pram for 2 or 3 years. We'll take care of it 59 seconds. We'll take care of it for them. If it breaks, we'll fix it. If they need another one, we'll replace it. Rather than them having to go buy one, it'll be Revolve certified, which is a good standard. In Scotland, it's a standard for secondhand goods, so that it builds consumer confidence, so they know that it's been through safety checks and cleaning checks. So we'll have multiple streams of income, and I think we're excited, and I think it's a good example of seeing something out there that is going to landfill unnecessarily and saying, all right, what can we do with this? So Repair Cafe Glasgow, saving the world one touch at a time, and the Pram Project, saving the world one pram at a time. Thanks. Oh, 11 seconds.
Look at that for timing. That's amazing. Oh, well done. It's not like one of those DJ things, right? Go wah 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 wah, yay, and so forth. There are some good questions that hopefully you can tackle in the Etherpad or maybe at
Great.
the end of this session, like if we have time.
Hello there. Can you guys hear me?
Is that you, Arthur?
Yes, this is me. Hi, I'm Arthur.
Fantastic. So you're like I'll attempt to establish who some of these other mystery guests are in a moment. Arthur, are you ready to begin your 5 minutes on fixing the trusty Fairphone and in its various models?
Yes, I am.
Do you have slides? Okay.
Great. Okay. So
Whenever
I
you're
am ready to go. I'm going to start my time as well. So I'm actually going to talk about modular phones and modular technology in general, and I call this the final phone clear. So, are modular phones the solution to smartphone repair? Will we all be talking about, oh, I'm just going to swap out my camera, rather than I'm going to get a new phone? I might not be the most unbiased, but I believe so. So next slide. So it all begins in, next slide. There we go, 2016. So was this perhaps the year of modular phones? Can you cast your mind back? Do you remember the Google Aura project? They actually circulated prototypes around CES, the big electronics showdown in Las Vegas. The LG G5 was launched, the Motorola Moto Z, which allows you to change your back cover for a funky camera. All of this was very promising. Next slide. But never really happened. Google Aura was never launched. The LG G5 was soon superseded by the G6, which wasn't modular. And the Motorola Moto Z, well, it's still around, but I don't think that many people actually use them. Next slide, please. But there was another phone that was released in 2016, which was the Fairphone 2, which some people will have heard of, probably here, but maybe not as many as should. The story actually goes back a few more years to 2013, when the company was founded from scratch by some dudes in the Netherlands. And they made a phone in a year called the Fairphone 1, which was modular, and also tried to make sure that the minerals and labor were fair and fair trade. And they continued that. The Fairphone 2 was a big step up with a lot better specifications. And 4 years after that, really, the 2019 Fairphone 3 was released, which kind of built on their experience of making modular phones, which I had experience and joy of learning by owning a Fairphone 2, which is what I have today. And I see actually Dave has also got one, which I think is fantastic. So I got mine since I pre-ordered mine. They had a crowdfunder. So this is now 4.5 years old, and it's still going. But I want to tell a tale in 3 parts about the phone and my experiences of it. So next slide, please. So first part, a case study. So what is the most likely thing to break? Well, probably the screen or the case. In the case of the Fairphone, it has a kind of rubber, or had a rubber seal around the edge. And if you opened it up too many times to show people the inside, it turns out it peeled away. So they released a new version of that, which didn't have that, and it was also slimmer, about midway through their kind of release cycle. So a lot of people managed to avoid that problem. They also had a warranty, and you got a new cover for free if you had that problem. But they went a step further. So next slide, please. They released the design file, which meant, next slide, people with 3D printers made their own cases. I particularly like the one in the top right-hand corner, which is, I think, is made out of wood fiber, and they've designed their own slotting mechanism so it kind of slides together. Also, the one with the massive battery in the back is quite nice. And I quite like this one, which is one made out of carbon fiber, which I printed on my university printer. Next slide, please. Part 2 is an unusual bug, which is the microphone breaking, which happened after about 4 years, and eventually no one could hear me in my phone. So this is a great example of modularity. You can buy your own microphone online and fit it yourself with a Phillips screwdriver. It takes about 2 minutes and costs about €35. So big change from going to an Apple store and being ripped off by about $200. Next slide, please. I might just put it in there, but the third issue I had.
Good.
Time's up. Okay. Well, we'll discuss afterwards.
If you can do this quickly, that's fine.
All right. Okay. Third issue is it stopped being a phone because the antenna went on it. So I like to call it a Fairpod. It turns out actually that the antenna itself, although it wasn't designed to be modular, you can actually fix it. So that is something that I repaired actually just today. So I think all in all, I believe that modularity, next slide, is kind of the future. And I hope that you share your experiences, next slide, of modularity on restarters.net, if you're on it, or here at the end, if there's any time. Thank you very much. And image credits.
Thank you very much, Arthur. But you know, and it's my Fairphone too that decided to stop you at that time. We're jumping around a little bit in the schedule here. If Elena is here, be good. Hello, Elena.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Do you have slides?
I've got a visualization to show, so let me try and share my screen. If it doesn't work, then we'll have to ask somebody else to do it. Just a minute. So my quick talk today is around data, recycling data. So the local authorities around the country actually publish quarterly the details around how much of each material they've collected and where they're sending it to for processing, including export as well. So that data is not readily available. You can get it. It's open public data set. But what I mean is not readily available is because it's collected by a survey and it's not so easy to clean that data, basically. So it's all fairly messy. The biggest part of this project for me was actually trying to map it and clean it up so that I've actually geolocated, sort of found the location of all the facilities that are listed and double checked that the tons of the materials are correct. So what you're looking at here in this map is my local borough of Ealing only. And you can zoom in to see. So Ealing Borough in West London is sending quite a lot of its collected recycling into a facility somewhere in East London, but they also send a few direct to the relevant facilities. You can kind of click on them. You can have a look where they're sending it. So there are also those dots for where the materials are going, and you can see, you know, the specific name of the facility and how many tons they're receiving as well. Now, this visualization, I haven't built it. It's actually a tool from FlowMap Blue that you can all use. I think if you wanted to get rid of that filter, yeah, you can click out of things. And the way this works is you just have a Google spreadsheet at the back with the data, and the visualization is kind of just done for you. So I just wanted to kind of bring this data set to attention. So the dataset covers all the authorities and many years since 2012, and it's very interesting to also look at the changes year on year. For example, when there are different policy changes, when a local borough changes their provider, their contractor for the recycling, or when, for example, there are policy changes, like when China decided not to accept any more of the overseas materials to process. So yeah, I just thought I'd share it with this community, because maybe you might be interested in this, or somebody who might be interested in looking at this in more detail for other boroughs, for comparing over time. And all this data is available by material as well, so we know exactly what is being sent where. I hope if you have any questions, let me know. But I guess it's just that was a really lightning talk.
Fantastic. And we've got 1:30 to go. If anyone has a very quick question, the popular question in the chat is, where's the link? James has posted it, which is very helpful. Arthur has asked, is that Freeland where the big
No, I didn't know where to put when I didn't know the location. So when they're going abroad, when they're going overseas, but we don't know specifically, is it exported to India or is it China or anywhere that's not Europe? I've just put it in the sea. So so the same.
That's not one of these islands of plastic that just circles off the coast of, is that Normandy, Brittany? Oh yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I think at least some of that actually does get processed. So, but that's the flow that gets actually exported, and you can also see another flow that gets exported to European Union. So again, we don't know the specific countries, and these are going to Calais. The North Sea flow is when it's unknown, because surprising amount of material in tons, actually we don't know where it goes. The local authority doesn't know where it goes. So I've just kind of mapped it there.
Fantastic. Thank a lot of interest in that on the chat, and the Etherpad, which I'm trying not to get too distracted with while everything else is going on. Thank you very much for that, Elena. Elena is a Restart data volunteer. I've not done a brilliant job of introducing people, but it is, the information I have is on the screen that you have. And a familiar face has popped up here. He's described like he's going to be talking about trash picked TV repair, and I think this must be Tony Brown. Are you ready to begin your 5 minutes, Tony?
Okay, great. Thanks very much. Thanks for inviting me along, and I'm going to have my own timer running here, so hopefully I won't overrun. Well, I want to start by saying, first of all, a thank you to all the people in the Restarters community that have been very generous with their time in helping me fix trash pick TVs. But I think the first thing to say is that you don't actually always have to take a television apart to fix it. And I volunteered at a couple of Restart events before I really tackled my first trash pick TV product. And I live in a local authority flat on an estate, and we get a steady stream of TVs being left in the area where people leave bulk waste for collection. That's the main source of them for me. Also, we get environmental criminals that just leave broken stuff on the street, in and around the area where I live. So occasionally I've picked up TVs that way. And I suppose the third place you might find them is websites like trashnothing.com, Recycle Freegal, that kind of thing. And I got one from there recently. It's become a bit of an addiction and a little bit awkward. I mean, my flat is now filling up with televisions, and it would be difficult, certainly if the TV licensing people came around to try to convince them that I don't have a television license, I don't watch television, and actually no, I give them away, officer, when I've repaired them. So that I'm not looking forward to that conversation. So the first thing to say is you need a remote control to help you fix TVs. The very first one that I tackled, I turned it on and the screen just went red, green and blue and kept cycling through. I didn't have a remote control and I thought, I'll Google it, as you do. Looked up the symptoms online and somebody suggested that it was a test mode that the television might be in, and you could switch the test mode off. So with the manufacturer's remote control that I got from eBay, £3 or £4, put some batteries in, pointed it at the TV, pushed the button, and the menu came up, and that was it, fixed. So somebody had thrown it away, nothing wrong with the television, gave it a bit of a wipe, sent it on its way on recycle. The next one wasn't quite so successful a story. James, can you show the picture there? Now that actually looks like a perfectly good television, doesn't it? And if anyone's going to tackle any of these things themselves, I think the key point to understand is that if the liquid crystal panel itself is damaged in some way, there's really very little that you can do to fix the TV. It's basically beyond economical repair. Now, this television was completely dead, so I sourced a power supply for it and installed the power supply. These are very modular and easy to do. Be careful, of course, if you're taking a television apart, because not only should you unplug it from the mains, you need to understand that the power supplies contain capacitors and there's enough voltage in there to kill you or give you a nasty, painful shock. So I put the power supply on the TV, turned it on, and if you show us the next slide, James, this is what I saw, which I have to say was a bit of a disappointment in the circumstances. So that television is a write-off, and it cost me 20 quid to find that out. So the second thing you're going to need if you're going to be having a go at fixing TVs is a microfiber cloth to give the screen a very good wipe, make sure it's nice and clean. And the third thing is a bright torch. Okay, so I've got a head torch here, an LED torch. So when the television's off, on the side of the road maybe, or in a skip somewhere, just shine that bright light into the liquid crystal screen and you can see through.
1 minute.
Yeah, great, thanks. You can see if there's any damage there. The final point to make is that TVs are very modular. So I've got one on the bench over here. I'll show you quickly. This is a Samsung TV that I got from a Trash Nothing recovery. If we just point the camera down there, you can see on the left-hand side there's the power supply unit. There's a speaker in the middle, and then there's a modular main board. Obviously the actual screen is on the other side. These are easy components to replace. Just unplug them, put in a known good component, source these things very cheaply on eBay and other places, and generally speaking you can return them to service pretty quickly. However, if the liquid crystal screen is damaged, you can't. If you show the last slide, James, quickly. So this is a TV, the Sony Bravia 40-inch. Not a bad picture, but in certain circumstances you can see that it's actually got a problem, and that kind of fault is not something that you can repair. So it really does need to be recycled. So have a go. It's actually quite straightforward, very rewarding, and you can find a new home for the TVs really easy on Trash Nothing, for example. There's a huge number of people will say, I want it. If you put a listing up, you can find a happy new home for TVs very straightforwardly. So hopefully you found that useful. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Tony. It sounds amazing. If there is time, I could get into my refurbishment. This is a MacBook Core Duo. Classic, where I put a different backlight on it. A lot of people will throw out a laptop just because the backlight on the LCD is gone, and it's fiddly to replace that one.
Fix on the TV, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you. Some requests, Elena. If you could leave the stage, then Grant will be able to join the stage. I think Tony has left. Arthur, I don't know if you're on stage. In your mind, but you're on stage on my screen here. shall we go back to Lorna again? Who's what's the opinion? I mean, Grant is here. Grant is clear. Grant has a fantastic looking headset. Fantastic. And are you ready to begin?
Yeah, all set.
Grant, you've been super patient. Your 5 minutes begins now. Thank you.
Okay, so hi, I'm Grant. I'm going to tell you a story called A Tale of Two Repair Cafes. So this is a story about repair cafes in South Wales during coronavirus. Mr. and Mrs. Jones lived in a lovely town near the sea in South Wales. Slide 1, please, James. They both really missed volunteering at the repair cafe, which had stopped during the lockdown. Mrs. Jones, who was one of the organisers, said that they could still repair things if they were careful, but Mr. Jones, who was a repairer, said, "I'm not dying for a toaster." So they were at a stalemate. Slide 3. Then the repair cafe organisers got in touch with all of the volunteers to ask what they felt about restarting repairs. A Zoom meeting was organised, which was great because Mr. Jones was a dab hand with the old Zoom meetings and he did all the tech. It was a bit like James. They talked about the facts, how there were lots of older people in the town, how coronavirus could be caught and how this could be prevented. Everyone had their chance to speak. At the end, people voted on 3 options. And in Mr. and Mrs. Jones's town, they all agreed to do the repairing in their own houses. Another Zoom meeting was arranged to work out the details. Mrs. Jones asked some board members from Repair Cafe Wales who knew about some legal stuff, and they also asked some organisers and volunteers from other Welsh towns, including Mrs. Jones's nephew, who we hadn't seen for ages, so that was nice. So what happened next? Well, they've started repairing things. They've adapted the forms and the ground rules to keep people safe, and different volunteers have taken on different roles, from admin to delivery and repairing. Mr. Jones is really happy as he's in his shed repairing things and feels very safe. He's still not too keen on toasters, mind. This is where you say drop sheet. Now, that's nearly the end of the story. But before I go, I wanted to tell you about another repair cafe very close to Mr. and Mrs. Jones' town in the big city nearby. The organisers in this cafe did their consultation and arrangements using WhatsApp and the phone. Now, Mrs. Jones was a bit thoughtful when she heard about this, but when she looked closely, they were ticking the same boxes, but in a style that suited their volunteers. Things did move on a lot quicker, but the volunteers said they felt comfortable because things are in place to keep them safe, and they only do what they feel comfortable doing. So there we are. A tale of 2 repair cafes. I hope this story helped you and your cafes to think about repairing during the coronavirus. And now it's time to say goodbye from Mr. and Mrs. Jones and their toasters, or as they say in Welsh, hwyl fawr. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Grant. You have 44 more seconds if you have any online details. That was incredible. Like someone's screen just stretched out to infinity there. People can find you online via the Repair Cafe Wales. If they Google for that.
Yeah, Repair Cafe Wales. Yeah.
Fantastic. Comments in the chat.
Great.
Can't see them. That was great. Thank you, Grant. Does anyone have any quick questions? So creative. Amazing.
Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you for being so patient. I think if Claire is ready, she's not appeared on the stage. Arthur, if you can hear me, you may need to leave the stage.
I'm here.
I
Can
know.
you hear me, Dave? I am here.
I can hear you, Claire.
So great. Hi, everybody. I'm Claire. You might have seen me at some previous sessions. I run the Repair Cafe in Portsmouth. And I just wanted to talk to you a little bit tonight about how we are campaigning. And the reason we do campaigning is because we get loads of people that bring stuff in to fix, which obviously we could spend our lives doing. But what we really want is to make it easier for everyone to repair. So we need to get manufacturers and governments and everyone in the power places able to change the stuff before we even get it. I mean, Fairphone, I'm a big fan. I have my Fairphone here. But what we've really found is that people who come in just don't know where to start. You know, people are aware of things like inbuilt obsolescence, and they're aware that they can't get into their toasters or their kettles. So what we've tried to do is engage with the climate strikes. So James has popped up one of the photos that I've got. This was from the last, sadly, before COVID, this was the last one we were at. So this was in our big Guildhall Square. And what we did was we engaged with the Restart Project, which was the I Love My Phone campaign. So with that, we stole Restart's idea as well. So you can see a fairly basic the teenagers who were with me all knew what it was when we drew it on the ground, but we kind of chalked out a smartphone. And James, if you click onto the next one, there might be a bit of a closer up thing, but it's a sort of murder scene. If you go one more even, it might be even clearer. There are different facts on the ground around it. So it shows people some of the awful statistics around how many smartphones are sold, you know, every year, how many we buy, how much e-waste is created from them. And it was really engaging because it's literally the thoroughfare through which people travel to the university site, to businesses. And because it was there and it wasn't us just walking straight up to them, it was a really good way for people to just meander, feel safe having a look at. And then we did pounce, and I got my children also to go and get them to sign the petition and that kind of thing. But it was really good because we had really clear conversations with people about, you know, their own phones and the problems they'd had with them, and people were really up for change and really excited about being able to at least voice something on a petition to make things happen. The other thing that we've just had created, which I'm really glad to be able to support a local artist in the time of COVID. James, if you just go on the banner, although you might have to flip it round. I'd already flipped it around on my screen, but I don't think I have on this. So we've had a protest banner created. It's generic as well, so if you want a made, it's made from, she could even tell me it's all offcuts of fabric, so it's really in the spirit of what you know, we're passionate about at Repair Cafe. But that's also something that we can use at marches and just kind of increases our presence. So again, even in like the photos that people take and put in the newspapers or on their, you know, Instagram accounts, it's just a way for us to start conversations and talk to people about repair. We also obviously do this in our Repair Cafe sessions when we run them, and use our social media platforms to raise awareness of how people can campaign and get active on this. And people are really interested in ways to you know, voice their frustrations when things break, because it's unfair. It's bad for the environment, and from a social justice perspective, obviously there's lots of issues as well. That's me.
Thank you very much, Claire. I was admiring the picture. So that's a kind of like crime scene investigation thing where they've got those little numbers like scattered around and the evidence or pointing to the phone manufacturer responsible. Oh, like so I think again you were brilliantly under time. If anyone has any very quick questions or
someone's just asking about where we can get a Restart banner maker. I mean, I just found a local artist. She designs stuff for kids theatres and that kind of thing. If anyone wants a banner made like ours, she's already got a template designed, so could equally make them. We paid for it because I'm really up for paying for people's time as well, but she's open to offers. But I'm sure you equally have people near you, but I can put you in touch with Portsmouth if you'd like that.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Okay, Arthur says every repair cafe should have one. Okay, we are zooming through these. We're coming up to 9 o'clock. This is people like thanks to Grant for pointing out people still need repairs during the lockdown. This is something I saw on Facebook. My Darth Vader pizza cutter has stopped making the Darth Vader noise. Might just need a new battery, but something may have also knocked out of place. And and this is part of a list of many items. Not interested in replacing with new ones, thanks. And no one has replied to. I don't know. No one in the chat seems to have any particular Star Wars expertise. Pass that on to me. Oh, here, shall we try Lorna? You're not currently on the stage as far as I understand. Don't make me do lots of Darth Vader voices while we're waiting. While we wait for Lorna to appear, there's also a link to. There's a link that everyone should have. The EAC survey, which must be responded to by the 9th of July. So there's a prize to anyone in the chat who can tell me what EAC stands for. There we go. Claire's also posted that. EAC stands for Parliamentary Committee. One of those confusing. There we go. Fantastic. And if Lorna takes more than a few more minutes, I can read that URL out. It's like forms.office.com/pages/response-page.asp.x !ID equals NT3M. I mean, actually, I'll have to specify which lowercase. Okay, Lorna's back.
Okay, so share and repair. We started 3 years ago with one repair cafe. We now have 10, and 2 of those are with the university students, the 2 universities in Bath. 4 others are in the city, and 3 others are in the villages round about. We also run these how-to workshops because our main aim is to teach people, use our skills and resources to share them. So we run how-to workshops on how to use your sewing machine, how to use hand and power tools, and how to maintain your bike. And then we started a library of things last year, but that was in a cupboard in a community centre. And clearly we had no footfall, we had no, people being able to look into the cupboard and see what we were doing. So we've got a shop now. James, I don't know whether you can show the shop. Can you do that? And it's a fabulous shop, and it was given by the council for 4 months for us to do a proof of set exercise over 4 months. Of course, that was due to start on March the 23rd, and obviously lockdown prevented us from opening at all. We now opened on June 15th, and I've had nearly 3 weeks, amazingly successful. We're lucky that the shop is very large, and the front part is all the library of things, and at the back of the shop, James may be able to show some of these slides. We can do repairs. So we are setting up on Saturday by appointment only 3 repairers, obviously distance apart, and we have a big basement as well where we can work. And people have made appointments, and we shut the appointments 3 days before because people have to put their items in a bag into quarantine before they arrive, and then they'll be cleaned as possible, worked on, and we have scenes made by one of our repairers, which James is able to show you, made out of the perspex that is at the front of clip frames. and the clip frame perspex is the perfect size for a screen between you and the owner of the item. We also have a CCTV if people want to see close up into the item, and they can see that on the screen as well. So that's rather, I'll see how that goes on Saturday. And then the people take the item away in the bag and wait for 3 days for quarantine. We've asked people to bring masks to the repairer and the owner to decide whether or not they wear the mask. We've also got a design for what a repair cafe might look like in September when we start up, we hope, again. And James has got the slide of that, but or that can be shared on the drive. I don't know whether I'm talking to myself, but can anybody still hear me?
You got about a minute left, Lord. So
Oh.
I'd like to, but you know, take as long as you like.
No, that's fine. I didn't know whether people could still actually hear me. I thought I didn't.
We're all.
So the repair element is great because it will bring things into the shop, and we basically want to use it, the shop, as a center for people to come and learn about, you know, it's the right to repair, whether it's other organisations that support the environment. But we're really keen to see how this repair, we're starting gently, and see how it goes. One of our other repair cafes have got a very complex repair setup established, which doesn't involve the person seeing what's going on. They have to similarly bring it in a bag, they hand it over, it waits for a while, and then it goes to repairer, and then it goes back, and all that stuff. You know, that's a drop-off service which we don't really like, but the village where it's going to happen is a relatively low-income village, and they want to keep their product because they haven't been that long. So I suppose if they do it once or twice, it just keeps them in the front of the local people. So
fantastic. So, sorry to interrupt. Comments from the chat is that it sounds a bit like your audio is breaking up again now.
Okay.
Although it was worth waiting for. Thank you very much. Like and are the like presumably James has these slides, he can make these available.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much for bearing with me. I'm really sorry about the issues here.
Thank you. Okay. I should try. I should develop that skill of sounding like I've been cut off by. Well done. I think we fixed it somehow. The combined fixing energy in this teleconference.
I'll tell you what. One of the issues was I was still on broadband.
Sounds good to me. I can only hear part of the problem. Anyway, thank you. I think we're gonna give people a lot of links on this, and they can carry that on. I think you may have already seen the information that I need to convey for the end. Does anyone have anything else they want to? Arthur is still on the stage. If we want to hear more from him. Thank you everyone for speaking and attending. This is sincere. I wrote this earlier. Next session is on Saturday, 11 a.m. Chris and Lee from Repair Cafe Belfast. We're talking about sharing repair stories to build our movement, their movement. It'll be a great session. Final session is on Thursday the 9th, 8 p.m. We'll talk about the power of repair data, how to collect it, and why it can help change the world. And you have all heard about the EAC thing that was many pages back in there. Thank you everyone for taking part. Keep following the website and however else you communicate with the Restart Project and Fixfest for more information. Do these stop now, or does everyone continue chatting? I don't know. Feels like
We normally tend to end the video here, but the chat does sometimes continue after the session. And of course, the chat is still continuing in the Etherpad. So feel free to look back and see the notes from there or add your own. But thanks so much, Dave, for hosting.
I thought I'd just kind of end it on a vague kind of like, I don't know, are we finishing now, rather than going hooray, some huge ending for the video. But I think everyone enjoyed.
I think we can do a huge ending.
Arthur wants to have a quick vote on what? Who was the best, Arthur? Arthur, do you want to uncloak or whatever it's called on here and how many people think we will have repairable tech in the next 12 months compared to? I think your phone's in your pocket, Arthur, from what I can see.
Oh, okay. Yes, I didn't realize. I didn't want to leave the stage because there's a big blue button saying end session, which looks a little bit like...
Please don't click that, Arthur.
Can you hear? Great, okay. Yeah, do people think that we will have repairable technology becoming a thing that's wider than just kind of the environmentalists, kind of people who repair? No? Maybe more than 12 months, as Hugo.
This sounds like a great discussion for the forum, Arthur. I think we could probably really get into it there.
Yeah, no, it'd be really great to have some more discussions about all of the topics here, I think. But yeah, guess carry on into restarters.net.
Perfect. Feel free to share a link to that, somebody. But yeah, I think we can definitely continue these conversations over there. Less than 12 from Tony. Perfect. Let's wrap up there. I'll pass over to you, Dave, to have a final word, but thank you so much for everything and hosting us and taking us through these stories tonight.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. If anyone wants to, I tried to persuade the Crystal Palace repair cafe to have a DVD swapping area, but it was technologically ambitious. But this evening has shown me that so many things can be achieved. Yeah, thank you again, everyone, for taking part, and come back for those last few sessions. So I'll look out for you there.